Now, from the University of Okoboji, it's Okoboji Broadcast with Jeff Thee.
Welcome to Okoboji Broadcast. Welcome to Mary's and my favorite day of the week. We're here at the Dickinson County Museum. Mary Dreyer is here. It is. This is when we get together and do this. It's kind of my favorite day of the week.
It really is for me too, Jeff.
Yes.
It's just fun.
It's fun. I always learn. That's tough. And
we laugh.
And we laugh and have a good time.
We do. And we usually come up with something to talk about. Whether it's what we had not planned on or it's not.
It's all over the board, isn't it?
It's all over the board, yeah.
Well, what did you have in mind? We can go down any path you wish, Mary.
Well, let's go down this particular rabbit hole.
Okay.
I'm assuming that when you were a kidlet, you had one or more grandparents around.
I had my paternal grandmother and then my maternal grandmother and father.
You were very lucky.
I was lucky.
Yes. And did you ever visit their houses?
Oh, all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes?
Yes.
Let's go down memory lane for a bit, Jeff. Okay? Let's go to one of their houses. And what is it, when you think back to your days as a kid going to visit, what do you remember about their house?
Now, my Grandma Thee, her house was in May City, right in the backside of the Lutheran church there. And walking in, there was always something baking.
So, could you smell it?
Oh, you looked forward to it when you walked in. It could be coffee bread, it could be muffin. I mean, it could be about anything. My grandma, until she was 98, still did her own garden there.
Oh my gosh.
And loved to cook, and so tons of good memories walking into that grandmother's house.
Yeah, and what else besides the cooking do you remember? I mean, like, was there a favorite place for you in the house, or a disgusting basement, or what? Tell me some more.
She had a wonderful basement for playing downstairs, and there was checkerboards and different things to play on. Then she had this giant deep freeze, and there was either frozen Snickers bars or popsicles, and she'd always said she had this German broke, and Jeffy, will you bring up some whatever it is out of the deep freeze? And upstairs, it was never the refrigerator; it was the Frigidaire.
Yeah, my grandma too. The Frigidaire.
Yes.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have two grandmas that lived in the same town as I did, and one of them actually lived within a block of our house, so I got to see her quite a bit. And she lived it was a small house right across the street from the elementary school I went to. And what I remember most about her house, my favorite part of her house, was her basement.
Yeah.
And it was because in her basement she had this room, and it was filled with treasures. It was filled. She had a bookshelf, floor-to-ceiling bookshelf, across one wall. And just filled with books, all sorts of books. And she would let me go down there and just look at those books, and I would get to choose books every once in a while to take home.
It was like going to the library for you.
It kind of was.
Yeah.
It kind of was. All of a sudden, it just came to me. I remember one book I chose from her. It had a red cover. It was on the Blythe Sisters or something like that. And it was just really, and there were weird books like the History of World War I or something like that I would sit there and I would read through. But then also in this basement room, she had, I'm remembering weird stuff. I haven't thought about this forever, Jeff. In a drawer, in a little table, which I actually have now, I'd open up the drawer. I would explore. Yeah. She'd be upstairs doing her thing, and I'd be kind of sneaking, finding stuff. There was my mother's gold retainer for her teeth.
Oh my!
Gold retainer. I remember that. And then also there was this secretary, stood about this high, that I just loved. It was kind of lopsided. One of the wheels was off of it. It had spoon carving on the front, and I just loved that secretary. And when she died, I received that secretary, and it's in my house now.
Yes.
No longer lopsided. Fortunately, Gordon fixed it for me.
It's level.
But it came from a great-great-grandmother.
Oh, my.
You know, it's got the little pigeonholes in it and all that. So that's, the other thing I remember from going to, this was my Grandma Clara, my maternal grandma. She had a set of cards. It was actually 2 decks in a plastic box. There was the pink set, and then there was the blue set.
Yeah.
And they had sailboats on them. But she always played with the blue deck, and I played with the pink deck because she liked blue best, and I just sort of went along with pink. And we played double solitaire. We called it Nerds.
Oh, wow.
And it was really fast.
Yes.
And she had a card table we'd set up and do that. I remember that.
Oh, yeah. I can also remember my grandmother was a quilter.
Yeah.
And we all received quilts. I got one when I was born, I think, and then when I graduated from high school, I got another one, and they're still treasured to me.
Oh, of course they are. Yeah.
She was part of the quilting club at the Lutheran church across the road from her, and the other thing I remember about her, like I say, she was 98. She lived 105.
Oh my gosh, Jeff, you come from good genes.
Oh, I hope I'm carrying them. And they used to take trips to the rest homes, and she was like in her 90s, and they went, I'm going to visit the old folks. All right. Oh yeah, great memories.
How about your other grandparents? What do you remember about their home?
They lived in Hartley, and it was a small home. One thing I do remember, it had one grate in the middle of the house for heated the whole house. It wasn't like we have now with, different in different rooms or a couple days. It was one, and if you walked over it when it was running, it was hot. Did
it blow up too?
Yep.
So like Marilyn Monroe walked over it?
Marilyn never showed. And I can remember my grandfather, who was kind of crippled, and he sat there with his True cigarettes. He was had arthritis, but he could get that. And he sat and listened to the Twins on the radio every time he could. And on Sunday mornings, they always put on the church service. And that's,
Do you remember any particular thing that was in that house, or what it smelled like, or go just a little deeper, Jeff?
And I always thought it had I'm trying to describe, but from that central air thing, it always had, like when the furnace always kicks on for the first time, it always kind of had that odor to it, or aroma, whatever you would want to call it.
You say that, and I can smell that odor.
Yes.
Yeah, I know of what you speak.
And in the wintertime, it always, when you walked in, there it is,
Yeah.
And also my grandfather loved Lindbergher cheese.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that was not something good to walk in. Or you thought you walked in something, basically. And my grandmother had the cookie jar, which was always ready, but it was a little piggy.
Yes.
Little white piggy, and it pulled and that's where the cookies were. And she had, and we still have it, Kathy and I have it on the wall in our kitchen, her kitchen prayer.
Yeah.
A little plaque.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just wonderful little memories.
Yeah. My paternal Grandma Bess, always lived in her apartment. And it was always an upstairs apartment. I don't know why. We always had to climb up steps to get, and she lived in a couple different places while I was a kid. And her apartment had this distinctive smell of mothballs.
Ooh,
yes, yes. I still have a little glass jar that has little trinkets that she kept in this little glass jar, and I can open up that jar. And smell.
And you liked it.
I can smell the mothballs.
I can smell mothballs, but I don't go,
Yeah. The other things I remember about Grandma Bess's place is she had a pink couch. Pink couch. And it had, at the arms would lift up, and there were storage things under it.
Okay.
And she had a granny square Afghan in one, and that was my favorite Afghan. And I remember being drugged there every Saturday night with my dad, who was her son, so that we could watch Lawrence Welk together. And I would lay on the pink
I
couch
feel the
with the
pain. I was there.
over me. Oh, yeah.
And, you know.
And we'd go to Grandma's house for waffles.
Oh.
Grandma Bess's house. Eating waffles there was, there was a procedure. It was an old waffle iron, and it had this light on the front of it, and it would change from red to green, depending on whether it was hot enough or not. And either my brother and I were in charge of saying, "Oh, it's green," you know. Those waffles were just amazing. I still have a recipe card from her. It's very faint in her handwriting of Aunt Idy's waffles. And those are the waffles I make for my granddaughter now, who would be her great-great-granddaughter.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That is so cool. I can think of one historic event I witnessed at my grandma and Grandpa Leith was their name in Hartley. It was in July of 1969, and Neil Armstrong, I sat there with the whole family and watched Neil Armstrong walk on the moon.
Yes.
And
you know what I was doing that same day?
What was that?
I was in the game room at Vacation Village.
Oh.
There was only one TV in the whole resort.
Yeah.
And the TV was in there, and a whole bunch of us were in there just with our eyes glued to this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Isn't it weird how we can remember stuff like that?
Yeah. I remember as you walked in to their house, they had a little porch, and there was the cellar door.
Yeah.
And that's how you got down, and it's where the preserves were, and you know.
Was it a dirt cellar? Was it
No,
a
it was concrete down there.
It was the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see it. I can smell it.
You know, I was fortunate that I had another family home, and we've talked about it before. It's here in Spirit Lake on Fargo Avenue, and that house was just amazing to me. I only got to spend one night overnight in that house, but the house had dormers, and the dormers looked out over East Lake, and it was just so special spending that night there. And then when my aunt died, and it was time to clean out her house, I got to be there by myself for a day, so I got to snoop through everything, crawled back in the attics and found the coolest stuff. And I mean, that means even more to me now that I live here, like a deed to the Rose Hill Cemetery, which was south of the Presbyterian Church here, and ended up being, I don't know what the word is for decommissioning a cemetery back in the early 1900s. There was a deed from that. There's their house deeds. It was just incredible. I found her mother's immigrant trunk from Norway, which I still have in my house. But it was like through being in that house, especially by myself, I'm kind of an introvert, and being by myself is important. It's more than a house.
Yes.
I guess that's what I wanted to talk about. Houses are more than a house, aren't they, Jeff?
Oh, I mean, it's a home. You can call it a house, but
it's not just the wood.
Oh no,
it's not.
It preserves memories and aromas, and I mean it's an experience. I can't think of another word.
I can't either, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's very
I think we
real.
all have a personal experience with things like that.
Yeah. And it's very relational.
Oh yes.
I don't know if a house would be a home if there was nobody in it.
Yeah.
Or who had ever lived in it. I think it takes us to create the home.
Yes.
And I don't care who us is.
Yeah.
But it takes us living and breathing and growing and nurturing and all that stuff to make a structure into a home.
It does. Yeah.
I've been, and we'll do this another time, hopefully fairly soon. I've been pondering the old homes around the area a lot. Now, of course, my great aunt's home is one of the oldest homes around the area.
Right.
And so I have particular affinity for that one. But there are so many homes around the area that have a deep and rich history and stories that go on. I think of the Seaman Cottage, which is the chateau down on kind of off of Des Moines Beach near Okoboji Boats.
Yep.
That's a home that has a rich history here. Built very early, one of the earliest homes on land that was purchased from M.J. Smith, who got the original grant for all of the ground from the bridge across between the lakes, clear over to where the inn used to be. So this home, the chateau, was kind of the first property kind of developed in that area. And there are other homes too. There's another house that I think about a lot, and that's Oakdale. It's on Des Moines Beach.
Okay.
And it is a very distinctive home. It's a tiny little structure, and just looking at it, you know it's old as the hills. And it is. It's painted bright yellow with blue trim. And I can't tell you exactly when it was built, but I believe it to be the only cottage in the area that still has an exterior stairway to the second floor.
Oh, wow.
To the second floor bedrooms. And you know why? Think about why you might want that.
I'm going to guess for the help, No, not for help.
No, the house is too small for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but good guess.
If it was my family, I'd say so I could sneak out, but that's probably not.
Yeah, I'm sure those steps were used for that.
You clue me in.
The story that I've heard is the exterior stairs were built in the early cottages so that people, when they come up from the beach, could go directly to their bedrooms upstairs without dripping sand and water tracking through the living room and the living quarters. Yeah, so this one house, and drive along Lakeshore Drive, Dixon Beach, Des Moines Beach, I'm sorry, this one's Des Moines Beach, and look for it. It's a very cute house, and I know the woman who lives in it. It's been in the same family for decades and decades and decades, and it's just glorious. It's just glorious. There's another old home that was in the area. Unfortunately, it was taken down in 1972, but that's the M.J. Smith home, and it was in the area where Smith's RV Court is now.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was one of the earliest homes also. It was also, get this, the first home of the Iowa Lakeside Lab.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
Really, back in the day. It was also a boarding house. And many important people stayed in this house. For instance, the governors, when they would come to the Lakes area, would always stay in this house.
Wow.
And it is kind of the inveterate family home. I so wish it was still standing.
Oh, wouldn't that be special? Yes. Oh my.
Yeah, it would. So we'll go down this rabbit hole another time, looking at more specific homes. You know, I think of the Egelharv home, Fedora, for instance, the Pagoda House up on Spirit Lake, and certainly the Kingdom Place also on Spirit Lake. There are homes that have been here forever, who have watched the history of this area unfold, that have stories to tell us. And so we'll go down that rabbit hole
Absolutely.
Another time.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you for visiting with me about your grandmothers and their homes. It is fun. And as you stand and do it, it's funny how things keep popping into your head.
Yeah, you too.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't believe just standing here in front of the camera how I remember my mother's retainer in my grandma's drawer.
And I didn't even know they had retainers back then. All right. Well, hey, we hope maybe you have some memories of your grandparents that maybe are going through your head right now. And of course, we want to welcome you anytime you want to stop in to the Dickens County Museum here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays.
10 to 3.
10 to 3. There you go.
And also Wednesday mornings, 10 o'clock, way back when. This morning we talked about houses and grandparents' houses and what folks remembered, and it was a glorious conversation.
I bet it was.
We always have a great time with that. And I wanted to let folks know also on the evening of November 12th at 7 o'clock, it's a Tuesday night, we'll be having a History Lives presentation. And this is kind of a two-part presentation. John Smeltzer, who has previously given us a program on Templar Park, will be back to kind of summarize that and perhaps talk about plans the SLPA has for Templar Park in the future. Along with that, local attorney Mike Johnson will be coming, and he will be talking about the Knights Templar. He is an officer of that organization, and I don't know about you, Jeff, but we talk about Templar Park all the time. I have no clue what the Knights Templar actually were and are.
Yeah.
Because they're still here.
They're still an organization, yes.
So the two of them together are I think it's going to be a very fantastic and dynamic program. So everyone's invited to that.
Very good. All right, my friend, thank you for being with me again.
Thanks for remembering with me, Jeff.
Our favorite day of the week. That's right. Wednesday is right here at the Dickens County Museum. We thank Mary for her time. As always, we thank you for watching us right here on Okoboji Broadcast.
Okoboji Broadcast from the studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park is brought to you in part by West Wealth Management, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Advisor Jan Spielman, AJ Spielman, and Erica Wachholz. The headquarters of the University of Okoboji is at the Three Sons, open Monday through Saturday 10 to 5 and Sunday from 10 to 4. Bank Midwest, dream big, plan wisely, live well. Lakes Regional Healthcare and Avera Partner. Beck Engineering in Spirit Lake. Be Radiant Laser Skin Studio in the Okoboji Plaza in Okoboji.